Hello class and Professor Turner. My name is Jarot Turner and this is my research presentation for Comp 2. The research topic that I chose is one that will hit close to home to some, and especially those who were recently affected by the tragedy in Parkland, Florida, the deadliest school shooting to date. But the question still remains, what causes this type of violence? And are violent video games really responsible for violent crimes? There are several reasons why I chose this controversial topic. For one, I'm an avid gamer, and because of this, I hate to see this type of entertainment being challenged by people who are just looking for a scapegoat to real-world violence, rather than dealing with the real problems in our society. And furthermore, there's a lot of information to be found on this subject, allowing it to be an easily researched topic. My hypothesis is that violent video games are not solely responsible for real-world violence. Other factors include how much time is spent in an augmented reality, the maturity level of the player, and the lack of parental control. I hope that my research will convince my audience to search out the real causes of violence, instead of blaming whatever seems to be trending for young people. After all, there was a time when comic books, rock music, and even cartoons were blamed for violent behavior in society. I also hope to show that responsibility starts in the home, and parents need to invest more time in their children. They can accomplish this by instilling in their child a good moral compass, by simply teaching them the difference between right and wrong, and by having a healthy discipline, which sometimes means turning a video game off or taking it away. After the Parkland shooting, media was looking for anyone or anything to blame, and, as seems usual, video game violence was brought to the table. This prompted the White House to get involved and schedule a meeting with the game developers. According to VentureBeat, a technology news source, President Trump had a meeting with several gaming companies. There, the game developers had the opportunity to present research that showed that there was no link between violence in the real world and violence in video games. It's no secret that children have a grand imagination. However, spending time in reality is just as important. Studies show that more and more kids are spending too much time playing video games. In one study conducted in 2006 at Iowa State University by Dr. Buckley and Dr. Anderson, they found that 600 high school students played nearly 9 hours of video games on weekends. Why aren't these kids playing outside or riding their bike, you may ask? Luckily, there are psychologists who agree with you. In the article, Violent Video Games, Psychologists Help Protect Children from Harmful Effects, it stated that reducing the exposure of violent media and generating non-violent solutions to problems all can reduce the impact of media violence in children and youth. Non-violent solution to kids that are bored? Go play outside, in the real world. Secondly, the maturity level of a child playing video games is very important. And I don't just mean age, but also mental capacity. It's so easy for parents to let media become the babysitter, but what kind of media are they watching or playing? According to the American Academy of Pediatrics website, doctors found that 7 out of 10 children between the grades 4th and 12th reported owning mature-rated games, which are only intended for ages 17 and up. So who's buying inappropriate games for these kids? After all, the content is labeled mature for a reason. But kids will be kids, and they'll want what other kids have. But someone has to draw the line. Game developers have taken the responsibility and have included audience ratings on all their video games. E for everyone, T for teen, M for mature, NA for mature adult. But children, or even some adults, who have limits on their mental clarity, should not be playing games outside the scope of appropriate age level. This leads me to my third and final point, parental control. Parents have to take responsibility for what goes on in their home. One way to do this is by having any type of media, whether it be video game consoles or computers, in an open area, or a common area, if you will, of the house, like a den or game room. This is my parents' philosophy, and also the insight of MediaSmart, a website for computer safety. On their tab, Video Games in Your Family, which is directed at parents, they state, and I quote, "If possible, have your computer or video game console in a public area of your house so you can closely monitor what your kids are playing. Not only does this idea allow for monitoring, but it also allows for more conversation and less isolation. This is what my parents have done in our home. We have a game room with a TV, 2 computers, 2 video game consoles, and a couch with built-in plugs for laptops and phones. And guess what? This is where everyone, even my parents, hang out. I don't feel like it's an invasion of my privacy because it's the way it's always been. Parents need to step up and be parents. Your kids will thank you for it. My research on video game violence and real violence is pretty well wrapped up. There was a lot of information on this subject and a lot of research that had to be done in comparing the 2 subjects. I feel that I have found enough information to support my hypothesis and some information that opposes it. I believe if there was a direct correlation between the 2, we would see even more violence in youth today. I did find one article interesting by Eric Kane, a writer for Forbes magazine. He stated that the number of violent youth offenders in the U.S. fell by more than half from 1994 to 2010, while video game sales doubled since 1996. So based on this, if the media and legislator cannot blame video games anymore, what will they blame next?
Time and consideration.
My research shows that there's more of a direct correlation between home life and real life violence.